You know, sometimes life teaches you the hardest lessons through the people you love the most. There's this woman I once knew. Her name was Amara. And if you saw her a few years ago, you'd think she had it all together. That soft smile, those calm eyes, the kind of person who believed in everyone, even when they didn't deserve it. But the day she fell in love with Tund, everything changed. Started like a movie. You know those kinds of love stories that feel too perfect to end badly? Yeah, that's precisely how it began. Tund was charming, the kind of guy who could make you forget every plan you ever had for yourself. He was ambitious, loud with his dreams, but quiet about his struggles. And Amara, she was the type who loved with her whole heart. People warned her, they told her he was trouble, that he wasn't ready for the kind of love she carried. But she didn't listen. She believed that love could fix him. She believed she could fix him. At first it was beautiful. He made her laugh, made her feel seen, made her believe in something bigger than herself. But slowly, things started to change. He began missing calls, canceling plans, spending nights out, coming home smelling of lies and late-night excuses. Amara noticed, of course she did, but she loved him so much that she convinced herself it was just a phase. The real pain started the day she made a decision that changed her life forever. She was offered a scholarship, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to travel abroad and study. But Tund said, "If you go, we're done. I can't do long distance." And Amara, blinded by love, looked him in the eyes and said, "Then I'll stay." That was the day she unknowingly gave up everything. At first it didn't feel like she'd lost anything. She told herself, love is worth the sacrifice. But months after rejecting that scholarship, Amara started to see cracks, not just in her life but in herself. Tund was changing. He wasn't that same sweet guy who brought her breakfast in bed or sent good morning texts to make her smile. Now he was distant, always busy, always tired, always irritated. And every time Amara tried to talk about it, he'd snap, saying, "You're always complaining. Why can't you just support me?" So she stopped talking. She started shrinking. She stopped going out, stopped calling her friends, and eventually stopped dreaming. She worked 2 jobs just to keep up with his endless ideas, helping him start a small business, paying rent when he couldn't, and even selling her jewelry to keep them afloat. She kept saying, "It's okay. When he makes it, we'll both make it." But that "we" slowly started sounding more like "he." Tund began spending more time outside. Meetings, networking events, late-night hangouts. And when Amara asked to tag along, he'd smile and say, "You wouldn't fit in there. Those are business people." That sentence broke something in her. Because deep down she knew she was no longer part of his world. She was just in it. One night, Amara found a text on his phone. It wasn't the message that hurt her, it was the nickname. He called the other woman the same pet name he used to call her. She didn't cry. Not that night. She just stared at her reflection in the mirror, eyes empty, lips trembling, and whispered to herself, "This isn't me anymore." But even after that she stayed. Because leaving him felt scarier than losing herself. You know when someone gives so much that there's nothing left to give? That was Amara. She wasn't living anymore, she was surviving barely. Tund's business began to grow, and suddenly he was the person everyone wanted to be around. He'd walk into a room and people would cheer his name. But no one knew that behind his success was a woman who hadn't bought herself a new pair of shoes in 2 years to keep him standing. The distance between them grew as vast as an ocean. He'd come home late, smelling like expensive perfume she didn't own, laughing at jokes she didn't hear. And when she'd ask, "Where have you been?" he'd sigh and say, "I'm doing this for us. Can't you see that?" But there was no us anymore. The night everything fell apart, it rained like the sky was mourning. Amara had spent the whole day preparing dinner, his favorite meal, hoping maybe tonight he'd come home early. But he didn't. She waited, staring at the food until it went cold. When he finally walked in past midnight, he wasn't alone. There was a woman with him. Someone younger. Someone glowing in ways Amara hadn't in years. He didn't even flinch. He just looked at Amara and said, "Pack your things tomorrow. I need space. I can't do this anymore." No anger. No explanation. Just like that, 5 years gone. Amara didn't shout. She didn't beg. She just stood there, shaking, trying to remember when she stopped being enough. The next morning she left. No money. No home. No degree. No one to run to. Just a bag of clothes and a phone that wouldn't stop ringing with pity calls. 4 months she crashed on friends' couches, worked at a grocery store, and cried herself to sleep every night. Every morning she told herself she was fine, but she wasn't. She stopped checking social media because every photo of him burned like acid. There he was, living his dream, smiling in suits, giving interviews, while she struggled to eat twice a day. And one morning, while walking to work in the rain, she saw a billboard with his face on it. Underneath it, the words read, Tund Al-Adil, the man who built himself from nothing. Amara stared at it for a long time, then whispered under her breath, I guess I was nothing. That was the moment she broke. They say when you've got nothing left, that's when you find out who you really are. For Amara, that moment came one cold morning in a cramped apartment she shared with two other women. The rent was late again. Her shoes had holes. Her eyes were always tired. But that morning, something inside her snapped, not in anger but in realization. She looked around the tiny room at her reflection in a cracked mirror and whispered, No one's coming to save me, so I'll save myself. That same day, she quit the grocery store job and walked into a small restaurant down the street. It wasn't glamorous, just the kind of place where you could smell burnt oil and laughter at the same time. She asked for a job. Any job. The manager looked her up and down, sighed and said, You can start by cleaning tables. And that's how it began. No plan. No backup. Just Amara, a rag in her hand, wiping away not just stains but the past itself. The first few weeks were rough. Customers were rude, tips were small, and her feet hurt all the time. But there was something oddly peaceful about it, something honest. For the first time in years, she wasn't pretending to be okay for anyone. Every night, she'd come home exhausted, but she'd write little notes, goals, promises to herself. Things like, I will finish my degree. Or, one day I'll own a place like that restaurant. She didn't tell anyone. She just worked. Months passed. Then a year. The pain began to fade, replaced by quiet strength. She took online classes in her spare time, read books about business and finance, saved every tip she could. Sometimes she'd still see Tun's face on TV, smiling, successful, untouchable. It hurt but not like before. Now when she looked at him, she didn't see what she lost, she saw what she survived. One evening, after closing up the restaurant, the owner called her into the office. He said, You've been working here 2 years now. You're always early, you never complain, and the customers love you. How would you feel about managing this place? She couldn't even answer. She just nodded, tears filling her eyes. It wasn't a big promotion. It wasn't fame. But it was hers. Her first real victory since everything fell apart. That night, walking home under the city lights, Amara smiled for the first time in a long time. Because for once, her happiness didn't come from someone else. It came from her. 3 years had passed. Amara wasn't rich, but she was steady. She had peace, and peace after everything she'd been through felt like wealth. She'd moved into a better apartment, saved a little money, and finally finished her online degree. People at the restaurant respected her now. She wasn't that girl who got left anymore. She was Manager Amara, the woman who turned a failing place into one of the busiest lunch spots in town. Every morning she'd open the shop, smell the coffee brewing and smile. This was her world now, small but safe. Then one rainy Thursday, everything changed. It was a slow afternoon. The restaurant was quiet, the kind of calm before the evening rush. Amara was behind the counter, checking inventory when the doorbell jingled. A man walked in, tall, dressed in a suit, with a face she couldn't see at first because he was holding an umbrella. He shook the rain off, looked up, and froze. Amara's heart skipped. Her hand trembled so hard she almost dropped the tray she was holding. It was him. Tund. Older now. Sharper cheekbones, tired eyes, but still the same man who once made her believe in forever. And for a second, just a second, she felt like that broken girl again. But she caught herself, straightened up, smiled politely. Good afternoon, sir. Table for one? She said, her voice calm, steady, almost unrecognizable to herself. He blinked, taken aback. Amara? She nodded slowly. That's me. You could see the memories flood his face, the recognition, the guilt, the shock. He stammered something about being in the area, just needing coffee, but his eyes never left her. Amara served him quietly. No anger, no awkwardness, just professionalism. She set his cup down, but as she turned to leave, his hand brushed hers. A small spark, the kind that only happens when history hasn't fully died. He said softly, You look different. She smiled, that same soft, calm smile she'd once given him years ago, and said, Yes, I am. And then she walked away. But Tund didn't. He sat there for over an hour, staring into his coffee, lost in thoughts money couldn't fix. He had everything the world said he needed, success, fame, comfort. But somehow, sitting there in that small restaurant, he'd never felt emptier. He looked around at the staff calling her Madam Amara, with respect, customers greeting her warmly, and realized she'd built something he couldn't buy. For the first time in his life, Tund envied her. Tund didn't stay away. The next day he came again. Same seat. Same order. Same silence. For 3 straight days he showed up, always at odd hours, always pretending it was coincidence. But Amara knew better. She'd seen this pattern before, the charm, the persistence, the half-smile that used to melt her defenses. Only this time it didn't. On the 4th day when he walked in again, she decided to face it head-on. She approached his table and said quietly, "You don't have to pretend you like our coffee that much, Tund. What do you really want?" He laughed nervously. "Maybe I just wanted to see you again." Amara folded her arms. "You've seen me? Now what?" He looked down, fidgeting with his watch, then finally met her eyes. "Amara, I know I don't deserve your time. I know I messed up. I thought leaving you was the right thing back then. I wanted more. I thought success would fill the emptiness, but it didn't." Amara's face stayed calm, but her chest tightened. She wanted to scream, "You destroyed me," but she didn't. Instead, she said softly, "You left because you thought I was holding you back. Turns out, you were the one slowing me down." He looked stunned. The Tund who once held power over her suddenly looked small. There was a long silence between them, the kind that carries years of unsaid things. He finally whispered, "I miss you, Amara. Every day. I've thought about you more than I can admit." She shook her head slowly. "No, Tund. You missed the version of me that loved you more than herself. That woman doesn't exist anymore." She turned to walk away, but his voice stopped her. "I heard about what you've done here. You turned this place around. I'm proud of you." She paused, smiled faintly, and said, "Funny. You had to lose me to see my worth." Then she walked off, leaving him sitting there, the same way she'd once been left years ago. He came again the next week, then the week after. Not to chase her this time, but to sit quietly watching her lead, watching the woman he once broke rise higher than he ever imagined. It wasn't pity he felt anymore. It was regret. The kind that sits deep in your chest and never leaves. And though he never said it aloud, he finally understood. Amara didn't need to be saved. She just needed to be left alone long enough to save herself. Weeks turned into months, and by now, Tund was almost part of the restaurant's rhythm. He'd come in quietly, sit by the window, order coffee, and stay for hours without saying much. The staff had grown used to him, but Amara hadn't. She didn't avoid him, but she didn't entertain him either. She had learned how to exist around her past without letting it consume her. But fate, as usual, wasn't done playing. One Thursday afternoon, her boss called a staff meeting. The restaurant's owner, the man who'd once promoted her, was retiring. And to Amara's shock, he announced he'd sold the business. "To a group of investors," he said, smiling. "And one of them is here today." When the door opened, she felt her stomach drop. Tund walked in, holding a folder, smiling nervously. The staff clapped politely, not knowing the history between them. Amara just stood there, frozen, her heart pounding like the first time he'd broken it. After the meeting, he approached her privately. "Before you say anything," he started, "I didn't buy it to control you. I bought it because I wanted to help. You built this place, Amara. I just want to be part of something good for once." Amara stared at him, searching for manipulation, guilt, anything familiar, but his eyes looked tired. Honest. Still, she didn't trust him. "Help?" she said slowly. "You helped yourself last time too. Look where that got me." He nodded, accepting it. "I know. But this isn't about us anymore. It's about you. About what you've built." For days she wrestled with it. Should she quit? Should she stay? Would working with him open old wounds she'd worked so hard to close? Her friends told her to run, to never give him that chance again. But deep down she wanted to prove something. Not to him, but to herself. So she stayed. And for the first few weeks it was awkward. Every decision, every meeting, every coffee break carried tension. But something strange happened. Tund didn't act like the man she used to know. He didn't try to impress her or apologize every minute. He just worked, quietly, respectfully. He praised her ideas in front of staff. Gave her full control. And when customers complimented the restaurant, he'd say, "It's all her. She made this what it is." Little by little, the bitterness started to fade. Not because he earned forgiveness, but because she was finally strong enough to give it. One evening after closing, he walked up to her and said softly, "You don't have to forgive me, Amara. I just wanted to thank you for teaching me what real strength looks like." She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "I forgave you a long time ago, Tund. I just didn't need you to know." Then she walked out, calm, light, and completely free. For the first time in years she wasn't defined by her pain. She wasn't the girl he left. She was Amara, the woman who rebuilt herself from the ruins of her own heart. A year later, the restaurant had become one of the most popular spots in the city. People didn't just come for the food, they came for the feeling. Warmth. A sense that life, no matter how hard, could be rebuilt. And at the center of it all was Amara, calm, radiant, confident. She'd gone from being broken to being unshakable. Tund had since moved to another city. They rarely spoke, but he still sent flowers every year on the restaurant's anniversary. No note. Just a simple white lily, her favorite. Amara didn't need the apology anymore. She'd already won, not by revenge but by growth. Then one day as she was locking up the restaurant, a young girl walked in. She couldn't have been older than 17, nervous, eyes swollen from tears. "Are you Amara?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Amara replied, concerned. "What's wrong?" The girl sniffled, holding a crumpled note. "My mom used to work here, before she passed. She always said if life ever got too hard, I should come find you." Amara froze. "Your mom?" The girl nodded. Her name was Kemi. Amara's heart tightened. Kemi was one of her first employees. A single mother, always smiling, always strong. The girl continued, "She said you once helped her when nobody else did. She said you were her angel." Amara's throat closed. She remembered that day, the day she gave Kemi her job after everyone else turned her away for being a single mom. And now, standing before her was Kemi's daughter, lost just like she once was. Amara took a deep breath, smiled through the tears and said, "Tell your mom, she was wrong about one thing. I wasn't her angel. She was mine." She took the girl's hand and said softly, "You don't have to worry anymore. You're home now." As the camera pans out, the light of the restaurant spills across their faces, warm, golden, full of hope. Life has a way of coming full circle. The people who once broke us become the reason we rise, and the strangers we help become the ones who carry our kindness forward. Please, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe and turn on your notifications.